Nobody on YouTube impresses me more than Trisha Paytas, and I mean that in the worst way possible. Trisha has demonstrated the ability to do extremely malicious things, while still having a loyal audience demanding the cancellation of others. Does holding a popular opinion of disliking another content creator give Trisha the ability to sweep everything else under the rug? Why does everybody seem to get hate whenever they try to point out the very concerning behaviors Trisha has demonstrated and admitted to even recently? There seems to be an extremely heavy double standard when it comes to this issue. Many people who follow Trisha demand other creators to, quote, take accountability without making any excuses or even defending themselves at all. Yet they let Trisha ride on every excuse possible to preserve this image of purity. It's like an impenetrable field. Nothing cuts through it. But TehMimi, Trisha has shown significant change and growth over the past year while working on Frenemies with Ethan. Yeah, about that. The more I looked into this, the more I found reason to disagree. Change your name to Alice unless your name already is Alice, in which case, hi Alice, because we're about to dive deep down a rabbit hole today. But before we get into that, a word from today's sponsor, Casetify. Today, I want to tell you a bit about Casetify and how great their customizable phone cases are. Casetify's cases are slim and protective. They're engineered with a 2-layer construction of Chi-Tech material. Their impact cases are 6.6-foot drop test approved, and their ultra impact cases are 9.8-foot drop test approved. Casetify's cases come in many different designs. You can pick your favorite prints and colors, and you can even place your own monogram on your case as well. I got one with my username on it, and this cheetah print one with 2008 written on it because it reminds me of my scene kid days. TikTok says that I am an elder emo, do not judge me. The cases are made with 50% of recycled materials from upcycled phone cases and shipped to you in 100% compositable packaging, printed with eco-friendly ink. I think that's incredible. Each case is also coated in an antimicrobial coating that helps eliminate 99% of germs. If you're getting the new iPhone, you should definitely get a Casetify case. Go to casetify.com/TehMimi today to get 15% off of your order. Thank you so much once again to Casetify for sponsoring this video, and with that being said, let's get back to the topic. Hello, yes, this is one of the videos I've planned to have out this month. I was originally going to have a completely out of left field type of video posted before this, an anime review if you're curious. However, I wanted to have this video up first because I promised I would have this video out and I wanted to do it before I went on vacation. I may or may not have the anime review up before I go, but if not, I will have it up right after I return. Also, if I sound super crappy in this video, it's because I have a pretty nasty cold, so yay that. Before we get into current events, we do need to take a look into the past because there are some things that reflect on more recent issues involving Trisha. Trisha has been a very popular social media influencer for well over a decade, even appearing on certain television shows and rising to fame through what I would personally consider being a popular trolling channel. Trisha would say ridiculous things and post them to YouTube, which gained a lot of attention. This type of trolling would get more and more extreme as it would go from harmless things like dogs not having brains to making highly offensive content with what I believe was the intention to garner negative attention because, quite frankly, it works. The more outraged the viewers were with Trisha, the more they would hate watch. They would hate comment on the videos, boosting those videos in the algorithm. And the more all of that happened, the more it benefited Trisha. Now here's the thing, I've said this multiple times in several other videos and live streams. If somebody does something problematic 5 to 10 years ago or longer, as long as they didn't do something predatory, illegal, or physically harmful to someone, I personally think a person can grow from that. I don't think it's something that happens overnight, but I think people can genuinely better themselves from once being a shitty person in a lot of cases. Personally, if I'm discussing a person negatively in my videos, it's either because they have recently done something problematic, or they have done something in the past or present that should be considered criminal, or they have done something problematic in the past, but also display a pattern of continuing this behavior for years and years up to the current day. And for the most part, I think a lot of other people have the same mindset. I remember briefly mentioning this in my live stream about Trisha months and months ago, but I too used to be a pretty awful person. I know I make a lot of videos talking about really bad people doing really bad things. I don't want to give off the impression that I'm perfect or that I can never do anything wrong because of that. Having a holier-than-thou image is not the impression that I want to give off, because that just isn't reality. When I was a teenager, up to even when I was 19 or 20 years old, I used to be pretty terrible. Some dumb examples are the fact that I used to get really jealous if a girl became popular for playing video games, because when I used to play video games as a kid, I would get bullied and harassed and picked on for enjoying that hobby. So in my head, I thought, well, every girl has to go through that because that's what I went through. Another example is the fact that I would be extremely gatekeeping and would also dismiss other people's issues depending on whether or not I dealt with a similar experience. A more embarrassing example is the fact that I thought I was so cool for having unpopular opinions. And sure, once in a while it is good to have a differing opinion on something. However, the reason why my opinions were so unpopular was because they were terrible opinions. It was also because I needed a lot of therapy, which I did end up getting, and that actually played a huge factor in me bettering myself as a person. You see, the reason I bring this up is because the therapy part in that actually comes into play here. And also, this isn't a case of Trisha was a bad person years ago, so now they should never be redeemed for growth and progress. Again, people should have the chance to grow if they actually put the effort into growing. And again, as long as they didn't do something criminal like harming kids. No, you see, this is a case of Trisha continuously doing this for years and years and years, along with some very dangerous behaviors. And it just so happens that as soon as Frenemies started, Trisha played this role of, I've changed, I've grown, I've worked through my problems, in a way that was so sudden it caught people by surprise. Like I said, this change and growth doesn't happen overnight, especially not in the way this was seemingly portrayed. Now, this next part involves Trisha's mental illness and how it is claimed to be a big contributor towards their problematic behavior. But before we get into that, we have to explain something else first. Trisha has mentioned having borderline personality disorder. I believe this was originally self-diagnosed, but they have mentioned working through this in therapy, so it's quite possible that Trisha actually did self-diagnose it and then had a professional confirm this. This isn't uncommon when it comes to getting a diagnosis either. Getting evaluated and treated for particular mental conditions and illnesses can be really challenging in the United States. That being said, seeing videos of people saying Trisha doesn't actually have BPD because it was first self-diagnosed does come off as a bit unfair in my opinion, although I do see the concerns, because if they don't have a professional confirm that this is the illness Trisha has, one, that could be dangerous, and two, that could cause the spread of a lot of harmful misinformation if it turns out Trisha didn't actually have it. And this also wouldn't be the first time that Trisha self-diagnosed a mental illness, the last time being DID. We'll get into that more later. But again, considering Trisha has continuously mentioned going to therapy and working on improvement, I would like to believe that there was likely a proper diagnosis after the self-diagnose. And that's where we get into the situation of Trisha claiming that having BPD is what caused all of this problematic behavior. From what I understand, borderline personality disorder does come with a lot of self-destructive and impulsive tendencies, so it could be possible that Trisha was self-sabotaging quite a lot while making this type of content. It has also been mentioned several times that Trisha has at points been under the influence of drugs, altering their mood and reality and creating a very dangerous environment. But it's important to realize that what you say and do while you are under the influence or dealing with a mental illness can still cause harm to others, and being in a toxic state of mind and consciousness does not mean that you are entitled to people's forgiveness. I'm not joking when I say that's a hard pill to swallow, but it's the truth. Working things out through therapy and becoming a better person are great, but you still have to come to terms with the fact that you still did harmful things. Again, that's coming from somebody who has also worked things out in therapy. There are some things Trisha has done that go well beyond the realms of trolling and saying offensive things for attention. While Trisha has made harmful content years ago, a year and a half ago, videos were made that outraged the entire LGBTQ+ community. Trisha made a video coming out as a transgender man. While something like this would normally garner a lot of support, a lot of misinformation was spread in that video, which could be seen as harmful towards other transgender people, and a lot of people felt like that video was a mockery. This was not the first time this had happened though, as a few years prior, Trisha made a video claiming to identify identify as a chicken nugget. Trisha claims that while making that video, they were on drugs and not in the right state of mind though. Regardless, this has caused a lot of mistrust from Trisha's audience. So much so that when Trisha claimed to adopt the pronouns they, them, some people weren't even buying it. Quite a lot of people question if Trisha is mocking the community to this day. However, it's important to note that most are supportive of this. After this occurred, Trisha was involved in another issue. They claimed to have dissociative identity disorder, otherwise known as DID. According to Google, DID is a mental disorder characterized by one person having at least 2 or more personality states. From my understanding, it's usually a reaction to trauma that helps a person with the disorder avoid painful memories. Trisha has made videos catching their switches on camera, and similar to the previous situation, a lot of people felt like this was once again a mockery, or that Trisha was just trolling. There is a YouTuber who deals with this mental disorder that goes by the name of Dissociated on YouTube. Dissociated made videos to try and bring awareness to DID. While Trisha was making videos about possibly having DID, Dissociated criticized Trisha's videos for spreading misinformation about DID. In retaliation, Trisha then called Dissociated crazy, a clout chaser, made multiple videos about them, and sent a wave of hate towards them. Trisha even promoted a video that claimed Dissociated faked their altars. Another incident that happened last year was that Trisha allegedly caused another creator called Nina Unrated to lose $16,000 from their OnlyFans referral after signing up to use the platform. Basically, a contract with OnlyFans stated that anybody who signed up using an existing creator's link would have 5% of their revenue go towards that creator. In this case, Trisha signed up using Nina's link, therefore 5% of that revenue was supposed to go to Nina as per the contract. According to Nina, because Trisha did not like her, once Trisha found out that that 5% of their income was going to Nina, somehow Trisha allegedly had that revoked from Nina and took back the $16,000. OnlyFans apparently had it written in their contract that they could change the terms of this however they pleased. So while this likely couldn't go anywhere legally, the timing is extremely coincidental. There was also the Charli D'Amelio situation where Trisha made several comments about Charli, causing Charli to address it. Trisha then responded by making tons and tons of TikToks attacking her and her sister Dixie. At this time, Charli was 16 years old, and now for the record, Trisha has since apologized for this, but I don't believe an apology was ever given to the other people just mentioned. Also, all of this so far is going to sound very trivial compared to what I'm about to bring up next. If you thought anything I've mentioned previously was bad, we need to get into the dangerous behaviors of Trisha Paytas: lying, manipulating, and abuse. Trisha has done a lot more than trolling or purposefully offending people for views. Recently, Trisha had gotten into a fight with Nikita Dragun via Twitter. Basically, the entire preface of this fight was who was the worst person. Was it Nikita for not publicly denouncing James Charles for all of the allegations that have recently surfaced, or was it Trisha for all of the things done over the course of so many years? To be clear, that was the underlying question given at the time, not a question that I'm asking directly. However, if you'd like, feel free to share your opinion on that in the comments below. During all of this, an old clip recirculated with Trisha Paytas, Shane Dawson, and Trevi Morin. Trevi was a minor at the time of recording this video, I believe 16 years old. Both Trisha and Shane were encouraging Trevi to give them lap dances. It was highly inappropriate and disturbing. In my opinion, this was just as bad as all of the other highly inappropriate things Shane has done with children throughout his career. Old tweets of Trisha making light of pedophilia also recirculated. If this were any other influencer, they would be dragged through hell for this. But those who were criticizing Trisha for this were being attacked by fans, not only of Trisha, but the Frenemies podcast as well. Now, when it comes to Jason Nash, considering all of the stuff with David Dobrik, I don't consider him to be a very stand-up guy by any means. He seems awful in his own ways, even in this relationship, and I don't want to make it seem like because I'm talking about Trisha mistreating him, that he's innocent from any other wrongdoings. We may have heard Trisha claim that Jason was horrible because after their breakup he didn't go see Trisha at the hospital during a mental breakdown, but we heard less about how Trisha crashed a car into Jason's house while being under the influence of drugs.
I got high on meth on my birthday, demanded he talk to me, and when he said he wasn't going to see me on my birthday and go to sleep, I drove over to his house, super high, crashed into his house, banged on all the doors, jumped into his pool naked, kicked and screamed through every window of the house. He got so scared after 3 hours, he left, and I chased him in my car to follow him. and got in a car accident.
Not to mention that Trisha made public videos complaining about Jason's ex and how she wouldn't let her kids around while Trisha was present, essentially villainizing the family and sending loads of hate towards them. I also just want to make it clear that I don't see this type of situation as drama or tea or something to gossip about. This is something that is extremely traumatic and should be taken very seriously. As I have mentioned previously, being under the influence or having a mental condition does not take away from the hurt that you cause others. If that's not bad enough, Trisha was present during the incident that happened with David Dobrik, Dirty Dom, and the women Dom took advantage of. Trisha and Jason ended up ditching them while things started to get inappropriate instead of trying to stop it. I understand a situation like that could be very traumatic to witness and very uncomfortable to speak up in, but it was an extremely serious situation. Now, to be clear, they aren't to blame for another person's actions, but they could have said something. They could have done something if they thought what was going on was wrong. Instead, they just left. And that's on both Trisha and Jason, not just Trisha. Another thing that I found extremely interesting around this time was that during Trisha's breakup with Jason, a lot of other scandals were going on at the time that they were involved in. And every time Trisha's name was brought up into a new scandal, even if it was a month later, like clockwork, there would be a crying on the kitchen floor video out the next day where Trisha would be upset about something completely irrelevant. Now, could this be a complete coincidence, or could Trisha be really good at manipulating an audience? But like I said, this is a continuous pattern of behavior. It's not things that just happened years ago. With Trisha's current boyfriend, Moses, there have been continuous critiques on how Trisha physically hit him and left bruises on his arm. Trisha also admitted to doing this in one of the videos made on Ethan Klein after Frenemies officially ended.
I hit him last summer, and it doesn't matter the circumstances, like I hit him and that gets thrown in my face all the time, and it's fine, but I'm not a domestic abuser.
Moses and Trisha also made a TikTok which left a lot of people feeling extremely concerned about Moses. This TikTok has since been deleted, but has been re-uploaded and now has over 2 million views on YouTube.
Put a finger down, toxic relationship edition. Put a finger down if they wouldn't let you hang out with the opposite sex. Put a finger down if they wouldn't let you like certain people's photos. Put a finger down if they got mad if you didn't respond in 5 minutes. Put a finger down if they ever got physical or threw something at you. Put a finger down if they ever forced you sexually. Put a finger down if you got to keep your location services on. Put a finger down if they threatened to kill themselves if you tried to break up with them. Put a finger down if they've called you names. Put a finger down if they called you overly sensitive, but really they were just being mean. And lastly, put a finger down if they've ruined your life.
The way that Trisha acts in this video, like, haha, this is so cute and quirky, guys, is really concerning. If this wasn't a joke, which it doesn't seem like it is, then Trisha, this is really up. But guys, it's okay. You know why? Because Trisha has changed. Sure, a lot of this stuff was stuff that happened within the past year and a half alone, but trust me, Trisha is different now. Ethan has been a positive influence that steered Trisha in a better direction. You see, the thing is, before diving into this, I wanted to believe that so badly. Even when I made my last video briefly covering this, I wanted to believe that very badly. Not just because it would be nice to see Trisha or anybody become a better person, but also because it would mean that those around Trisha would stop getting hurt. But now, after learning all that I have learned, I think the damage is not only irreparable, but also the fact remains that Trisha hasn't truly changed. The only change mentioned is the fact that they claim to be in therapy and making progress with their mental health. However, even during the Frenemies podcast, some of this still occurred. Excuses, lies, going as far to make Ethan uncomfortable and disrespect his wife right to his face, calling Ethan, quote, Jewy for taking 5% to pay the crew that works on Frenemies, among other things, making multiple videos that are hours long, lashing out towards Ethan and the Frenemies podcast, some videos which were public responses to Ethan's private text messages, talking down the crew and even sending enough hate to them where 2 of the crew members had family that were harassed by Trisha's fans. Ethan even claimed that this entire issue was tearing his family apart. are. Again, part of this could be because Trisha is self-sabotaging and acting impulsively with BPD, but even if it is, by excusing all of this onto their mental illness, whether it's their intention or not, will ultimately villainize anybody else who has the same or a similar mental illness. And I believe that if this were any other influencer, they would be called out for, quote, weaponizing it or, quote, using it as a shield. Don't believe me? How many of us called Gabby Hanna out for doing the same thing with ADHD? As much as I dislike both of them, it can't be right for Trisha to do this and wrong for people like Gabby to do it. In my opinion, all of this goes well beyond the realm of trolling for attention and relevancy. This goes farther than being offensive to get clicks and views. This even ascends the level of, quote, being problematic, in my opinion. Trisha has done a lot of extremely harmful and dangerous things to people. It's also clear that they need help with a lot of these issues that are clearly still going on. It's time to stop making excuse after excuse for all of Trisha's actions. Like I said from the beginning, it's not like one or two things that happened 5 to 10 years ago that they have completely grown and transformed from. This is a continuous cycle, a pattern of behavior that has gone from years ago until the current day. Thank you so much to everybody who has made it all the way to the end of this video, and thank you to all of my supporters over on Patreon, especially Lewis, Miss Tanisha, Anthony Tressel, and Michelle. You guys are phenomenal, and thank you from the bottom of my heart. With that being said, I will see you later.